All right. So my best project, and honestly one of the ones I ended up using a lot more than I anticipated, is this box. This is a sliding lid box. It is a very annoying project to make, even though it's not all that complicated. It's just following the steps and making sure that most of the pieces, if not all of them, fit properly is annoying. For example, here you can see that this doesn't exactly fit properly, although it's not really designed to, in my opinion, because if it did fit completely properly, the box would just slide off. Like you can already see there, right? Kind of struggles to stay in by itself, so not perfectly ideal, but that is how it works. This sliding in the box, I just use a hand plane to, if it could focus, there you go, to plane on all these edges, and I use the, I think, sanding belt, if I remember correctly, to make this edge, because obviously you can't use a hand plane to go through this and do it this way. You could do it this way, but I feared I would break it. Even though it is oak, applying that much pressure to try to chop this piece off, it just did not seem like a good idea, so I didn't do that. And then I just cut off an extra piece from the groove here, this piece. You could see it, right? It used to be right there. It used to be, and I just used glue, put it together so that it would have it stop. Now this is not perfect. You can see that there's issues here with gapping, and I could smooth this down a bit more so that the glue wasn't as visible. But it's also inside, so it's not really visible or that big of an issue. But yeah, also the bottom, so that the bottom of this is pretty fine, pretty decent quality. So are the sides. This is not. This was a bit more damaged side of this. So I wanted to make sure that this was in the inside, because if you have anything here, it doesn't cause that much issue. I usually actually use this box for my phone, but I'm recording on my phone because I'm not spending money on a big camera for recording something that my phone could do quite well. But I normally just put my phone in here and seal it up when I need to get myself locked into something, so I don't end up wasting time, distracted and procrastinating. But yeah, that's the box. I will say this is a separate piece. This isn't, obviously you can see this is exactly what this is, right? You can see that these two work together, but no, they're not. But let me see. I believe the way it was originally designed, it would be like that, right? Now I don't like putting it like this because it wants to slide out super easily, but that's how it was originally designed. But yeah, the bottom and the top are made in the same way, just to ensure that they held up. I pretty much just sealed them like this, put on one of the, what's called, square grips, clamps, that have clamp here, 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 and then you just tie it together with a rope clamp, I believe is what it's called, to hold these together with these in place. But I cut this beforehand and just applied glue on this and had it all compressed together with two separate clamps, belt clamps, rope clamps, however they are called in your workspace, and that helped to hold it together. I will say, if you do that, remember, don't leave glue on these edges, because it will just glue this to this. And while I didn't do that, I did forget to not apply glue here and to be careful about glue on these edges, so it kind of did want to stick to itself. I had to pull really hard, and luckily this didn't come off. You could also just not do that and have this later, but I wanted to do it then, so it did. It's obviously not waterproof. You could improve this a lot more than I did, but this was a first go. Did it in like 3 days, and working like maybe an hour or two a day. So I think I did a decent job for it only being one of my first 4 or 5 projects ever. So yeah, I will say, also remember, hardwood gets really sharp. Hardwood gets really, really, really sharp when you cut at 45-degree angles like you have to do for this. Right? I don't know if you can exactly see it. There you go. Yeah, you can see like these were cut in 45-degree angles to allow them to be joined a lot easier. Let me take this off before it falls off and smacks me or something, or breaks on the floor. Although it's hardwood, so it probably won't. But yeah, these got very, very sharp. I don't have the injury anymore, and thankfully it didn't scar. But it sliced straight across here when I was using it, because I just completely forgot that how sharp that thing can get, and it just slammed straight through that, cut straight through my skin. It would have done a lot more damage if it actually landed straight on, but thankfully it didn't. But did any really bad injuries, considering it only cut through some of my flesh. Could have been a lot worse. Thankfully, I wasn't. Always be careful around tools. Remember that your tools and machines aren't the only thing that's dangerous, because the material itself can be dangerous. What I did personally is I just smoothed everything down, sanded everything down. This is sanded down. These are all sanded. Like, this is all sanded down. You can clearly see that these are sanded down, all the corners, to make sure that they're not going to be dropped and, I don't know, stub somebody in the toe or something. These are sanded down. The insides of these are still sanded down. The bottom is sanded down. All the sides are sanded down. The inside of these grooves is sanded down to make sure there weren't any splinters or anything of the sort that would jam the top. The top's also sanded inside and across this, which is also sanded down to make sure that these aren't sharp for any reason. Most of this is sanded down in every perceivable way to reduce the amount of hard edges, because honestly, when you have a box like this and you're constantly using it, hard edge is exactly how you're going to end up with a cut. If I hadn't sanded this down, I could easily see myself smashing my finger like that and just slicing into my palm or my hand. So sand down the stuff that you need to use constantly so you don't end up hurting yourself. I know people say that hard edges look better and that they look more professional, but if it's a project for you, like this project is for me, it's just for me. Nobody else is going to use it, and I'm not going to sell or anything like that, obviously. It's just a project for me. I'm going to make sure it doesn't hurt me. Don't be ashamed to have something that looks a little bit less, I guess, professional. Hard edges may look more professional, but who cares? It's your project. It's for you. You get to decide what you want to do, how you want it to look like. You can make this whole thing pink if you want it. But, I don't know. Pink hardwood is quite expensive, so maybe not. Or purple heart, I guess. You can use purple heart. But, yes. This was really, really nice. Really, really pretty. I still wish I'd been able to add some finish, but sadly the workshop that I was at shut down before I was able to do that because of some issues with the building. But it's fine. It's done. It's finished. I use it to lock away my phone when I need to. I might at some point actually add a small lock or something so that I can actually lock it away for a little while. But as it stands, just being able to keep my phone out of my sight is probably its most useful feature for me. You can also use it to keep stuff like, I don't know, pens and pencils in there. It's not like it's necessarily just for that. It's a relatively big box. I mean, you can see, right, compared to my hand. I mean, I have small hands, but still. It's a pretty big box. What can I use to measure? Well, I have a ruler, actually. I think I used this to measure some other projects that I had to do. I haven't seen this ruler in a long time. But anyways, it's about 8.5 by, what is it, 3/75? Or 3 3/4 inches wide. Deep. It is, let's see, about 3.5. Seems like it. Seems to be about 3.5 inches. Sorry. But yeah. I don't know if I still have the exact number measurements. I think I might still have the paper. Although, while I was working on this, somebody crumpled up and threw away the sheet I had with all the measurements. Which, as you could probably understand, I'm quite upset about. But, as it stands, I might be able to find it, although if I do upload it, it's going to be very crumpled. It'll probably just be a quick picture of it because, well, maybe I'll copy it down and actually have all the instructions out. Maybe I'll write it up or not. I'm not sure, but that's the video of it. You can probably figure out some measurements by yourself. Honestly, it's not that big of a issue. It's mostly made on a table saw and using a crosscut. No. Yeah, mostly with crosscuts. Using a miter saw for the 45-degree angle. Obviously, if you have that, it's ideal. But if you don't, you could probably figure out how to use that with the table saw, although I'd be very wary about that. Or I guess you'd be more than likely to have the miter saw than you would the table saw. But you could probably do this whole thing with the... Well, no, you probably couldn't do the grooves with the table saw. I had to use the table saw very carefully to ensure I had these screws done properly. There's grooves up here and down here to hold these two pieces. And yeah, I enjoyed this project. It was very good to use more skills and more different machines to try to get this thing done and try to actually do it in a time constraint. But yeah, good luck if you try to make this thing. I would recommend making a couple of other projects first, mainly wood-based projects if you're going to be doing this. But honestly, it's not as dangerous as a lot of other projects that you might start off with. So I would recommend once you get a little bit more experience, a couple of projects, 2 or 3 under your belt, you can attempt this. Good luck.